Hi, boys and girls. So today I want to talk about the different places that we find poetry. So we've worked on so many poems already, and we've worked on a lot of color poems, acrostic poems, rainbow poems. So at this point, you know that you can find poetry anywhere. Some of your acrostic poems were about your parents. Some of them were about a sport that you liked. Some of them were about a birthday. Some of them were about a pet dog that you have. Some of them were about school. So I want you to think about today is all the different places that you find poetry. So I made a little slideshow and it's all of my pictures and things that remind me of poetry. And I want you to do something similar in your mind. And I want you to think about the different places that maybe you think that you can find poetry. So if I start up in the top corner, that's me coaching. I find poetry in sports and in coaching. If you look underneath that, that is a beautiful sunset and it's beautiful nature, and I find poetry in the colors in the clouds and in the big waves crashing on the lighthouse. And if you look to the next side, you will see that that is my parents' house or my childhood home. So I see poetry in the memories that I have at home and all of the dinners that we have outside, in the beautiful lights on the deck, when my brothers and I all lived home and we had a lot of family time. And those are some places that I see poetry there. Now let's keep going. This is all about family. So I see a lot of poetry in family. So if you look at that top picture, that is me and one of my brothers. Now I have two other brothers, but I find poetry in my siblings, with my brothers and how we get along and family. In the bottom picture, that's me as a baby, and that's my dad. So I find poetry in family and the memories that him and I have. And then to the right is a picture of all of the women on my mom's side of the family. And it's a great memory because it's at our lake house and it's with people that I love. And every year we have a big barbecue. So I find poetry in the time spent at our lake house because it shows that when we're kayaking, we go paddleboarding, we have a big pig roast, we have fireworks, we have bonfires. We do a lot of swimming and tubing and fishing, go-karting, all of those fun activities, and I see poetry in those. Now let's keep going. Where else do I find poetry? Well, I find poetry at school with all of you guys in our classroom. I also find poetry, if you look all the way to Miss Arnett Dressed Really Crazy, in teaching and the different events that we have at school. Now, if you look in the middle, that's me traveling. I find poetry in traveling and exploring new places, maybe taking a plane. If you go down underneath that, you know I love my ice cream. I find poetry in food. Ice cream, cold, melting, drippy ice cream with cookie dough pieces inside, all in a cookie sandwich on a hot summer day. I find poetry in food also. Maybe you find poetry in pizza or chicken wings or hamburgers or a sandwich or whatever it may be, but there's definitely poetry there. And the last picture is at the bottom. I find poetry in nature. Nature is beautiful. Maybe you find poetry in the birds chirping or the bees buzzing or the tree leaves changing, flowers blooming, the sky blue and white puffy clouds, or maybe it's dark and scary with lightning for a storm. So poetry is all around us. Now, these are just a couple of things that remind me of poetry. So what I want you today, I want you to think about where you find poetry. And I want you to look at my example that I have, and then I want you to think of your own places that you might find poetry. Have fun and good luck.